I'm going to read you an article that John Palvoitz wrote. Now, I've referenced this material before in the past, but right now, you really need to pay attention to this if you really care about the future of this country and the future of what future historians might say in the years to come. Because what we do now with Donald Trump sending military troops into American cities pretty much setting the stage for martial law and perhaps the murder of American citizens. We already had Americans being taken and arrested this past weekend, what we saw in Chicago. Stephen Miller going on newscasts continuing to lie and to demonize Americans. This is important. The article, The Americans the World Will Remember. 50 years from now, we will be judged for who we choose to be in these moments. And those words could not be any more true than now. This week, I was thinking about my classroom in central New York in the early 80s. I was sitting in front of my world history class, learning about Hitler's ascension to power and the gruesome events that led to it. At the time, it had only been 50 years in the rearview mirror since our shared story, but to me, it may as well be an eternity away. We spent the previous weeks reading and talking about the conditions that brought about the slow erosion of a country's collective morality. Targeted propaganda intended to generate panic in the citizenry. A steady stream of fake news meant to distort reality. A relentless rhetoric designed to dehumanize a vulnerable population and perverting of a religion to clothe the mass murder of innocents in the name of righteousness. But on that day, the reading and talking were over. As we wedged ourselves into a nondescript desks, and the early morning canopy of 24 middle schoolers slowly beginning to still in silence, our teacher said nothing. She simply clicked off the lights and walked deliberately to the industrial-grade projector parked in the middle of the room and pressed the button. I can still hear the hum of the cooling fan and the steady crackling of celluloid film as it cast upon the thin stand-up screen. The dreary, grainy, black and white footage of horrors that decades later still burned into my mind. As a young man, I tried to process the images of violence that define all cruelty, and I still wonder, how could they let this happen? How could millions of otherwise decent human beings allow such carnage to happen? What kind of human beings will abandon their better angels and consent to genocide? How does a nation abandon its collective soul like this? And still sitting there in the darkness that morning, as serious as I remember being towards Hitler, his amoral advisors, his sycophantic army, and his ghoulish Gestapo foot soldiers, my greatest outrage was saved by the ordinary people who could have stopped it all, but chose not to. Decades later, I fiercely interrogated them all from my front desk. Were they ignorant in the brutality in their midst, or actually or willfully? Were they overwhelmed by scalding fear and slowly rendered silent, where they were trying to convince themselves that they were safe even as others suffered? Were they simply unable to imagine it getting as bad as it gotten? Were they exposed as racist or cowards? Back then, the answers were elusive to my still developing brain, but today, some clarity is showing. I'm now beginning to understand just how good people can devolve into inhumanity, how they can allow the slow erosion of their elemental freedoms, how they can easily become desensitized to violence, whomever they consider the other, how prejudice can be weaponized, and how apathy can take over people oversaturated with bad news. And yet, none of the hows or the whys of Germany's collective failure will erase the what. History has recorded the ways humanity died on its watch. As I look around at America from my window, here's what I know. 50 years from now, all around the world, children will gather to view these days and this nation. They will not be met with dreary, grainy black and white footage, but with pristine, high-definition digital evidence of unremarkable and unthinkable viciousness, of terrified mothers being driven into the pavement by heavy-armed thugs hiding behind federal badges, of inconsolable children being zip-tied by men in masks, of husbands and students and grandfathers dragged in the vans never to be seen again. 50 years from now, people watch our authoritarian leader and his cadre of enablers and collaborators stoke division, eradicate truth, traffic in stereotypes, incite nationalistic fear, feed racism, silence dissension, and vilify already vulnerable communities and commit unthinkable and unfathomable atrocities. And they'll be rightfully horrified. But they will save their greatest fury for you and me. For the tens of millions of us who are standing here right now with the responsibility and the agency to push this filth all the way to the hell it came from. And they will have no tolerance for excuses or rationalizations as to why we did what we did or what we failed to do. They will not let us off the hook for falling asleep, for giving up, or for shutting up. They will evaluate our shouts and our silence and our courage and our cowardness, and they will render judgment on our character accordingly. With the absolute worst history repeating here in our homeland, we can either allow it or rewrite it. My friends, 50 years from now, what you and I do now, today, will be a lesson for the world we leave behind. What will we choose to teach them? Thank you, Mr. Palvoitz, for that. And to answer that last question, what will you choose to do? What will you choose to teach them? I made my choice. That's why you see me on this video now. That's why you see me in the videos I posted up to this point. I made my choice. My choice is not to remain silent in the face of this nightmare Donald Trump is putting us through. The why he's doing this doesn't matter anymore. We can go over his mental instability, his lust for power all we want. And we wouldn't probably be far away from the truth. But the why no longer matters. What matters is what he's doing and how we respond. Now, I am not calling for violence. I never have, and I never will, because too many Donald Trump supporters will take this video, like they did before in the past, try to create some sort of I crap about me calling for violence, when I have not. I never have, I never will. But I am going to tell the truth about what is going on in this country, just as much, if not more, than Donald Trump is telling the lies that's what's happening in this country, as he did about Portland being some kind of war zone. Just today, before I made this video, he said that Democrats, a political party, that Democrats were a terrorist organization. That in itself should scare everyone out there. That we make a personal and political choice to vote for whom we want, when we want. That makes us terrorists. That's coming from the mouth of Donald Trump, the man who is supposed to be the president of the United States, but sees himself as another Adolf Hitler. The reason why Adolf Hitler gained power in Germany and no one stopped him until it was far too late is because a multitude of reasons. But one of the reasons that really anger me is that is the same reason that we see here and now for the silence of so many Americans letting this happen. It wasn't going to affect me. It wasn't going to be as bad as everyone says it is. We're just listening to the propaganda from the other side. But look at what is going on in this country right now. Excuse me. Look at what's happening, and look at what the Commander-in-Chief of our military is planning to do. Listen to what people like Stephen Miller are wanting to do to this country. He blabs that judges are against him. And the judge's house was set on fire. The real threat right now is Donald Trump and his cadre of people who want power. And what I just said in that sentence could possibly get me into some kind of trouble. But right now, the time for subtlety ended the moment he sent American troops into our cities. The second he decided that somehow we are a threat to him, not because we are, not because we've done something wrong, but because we committed the crime of not voting for him. With a mindset like that, Donald Trump cannot remain as president. But as to the question that was asked by Palvoitz in the end of the article, I'm doing what I have to do to get the word out, to make everyone understand why Donald Trump is such a threat. I'm posting videos here on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter X, on TikTok. I am doing what I have to do to show people what kind of a threat Donald Trump really is. And I'll be called every name in the book. I'll be accused of everything in the book. I already have been. All for the sake, and I've been accused of these things and called these things because I won't support Donald Trump. I'm going to make it clear to you all now. I will never support him. I will never applaud him. I will never pray for him. All I'm going to do when it comes to Trump is tell him the truth to his face. Even though I'm not face to face with the man, to his face and to his followers. Because they are just as guilty as Trump. When my time in this world is over, there are only 3 things I want my friends and my family and the rest of the world to know about me personally. 1, that he loved his family and cared for them. 2, that he was an Ohio State football fan and Kentucky basketball fan. And 3, and listen to this very carefully, he led and lived by the courage of his convictions. That's what they're going to say about me when my time in this world is over. By the people who matter. What will they say about you in this time, in this moment, while you were seeing American troops marching in American cities, coming very close to killing someone, putting American cities under military occupation, all for the sake of a madman? What will you say? Will they remember you with honor, dignity? Or will they say he wasn't a brave man? He just let it all happen. He wasn't strong. He just let it happen. He wasn't courageous. He let it happen. I'll tell you what I will say, and I'm going to close out this video. If you don't step up and speak out against this insanity right here, right now, what I will say about you is that you enabled it, you allowed it to happen, and innocent people died because of you. Just as the Germans did not stop Hitler before the Holocaust. Just as that happened, you will be condemned by history and by me, for as long as I can do it, for letting this betrayal of our country and its values happen. That is a promise. CTP, know the truth. God bless. Peace to the left, justice to the right.